our budget, we do that. I mean, when you see our budget, you see actuals and stuff. We're updating the columns, making sure everything ties and for that matter. But this is just an additional tool that, rather us taking, like say someone calls and asks for a public request act. We provide them this information, but with this tool, they could probably look at this and then be like, oh, that's my question's answered, and not get that. But for us, I think too, it'll be another tool advantage because yes, you can export that into an Excel. We can do a chart and then we can put it in a PowerPoint. We can download it into a PowerPoint as an image.
What do you think?
It's significantly more dynamic, and that's the right
Is
way
it?
to go. Absolutely. Absolutely. I wouldn't choose anything. Excel doesn't even come close.
So you think there is value beyond just
There is.
an Excel spreadsheet?
There is, and if you're intending to provide transparency to a public, a general public who's incredibly techie smart, that's the way to go.
Mm-hmm.
And they're gonna respect the fact that you actually provided and invested in that.
Yeah.
And I really think, yes, it is something that's beneficial to the auditor as well, because, and I think we could probably somehow massage credit back his time by providing him with this kind of information, because it's an eye tool. It's interactive in that the public will comprehend this much better. I do, even myself. If I look at it, I'm like, oh, that makes perfect sense.
So I wanted to ask, is it a year contract or it's a minimum a year contract?
Is it 1 year to year?
Year to year, so that's all we're obligated, $2,800.
But
And that's,
you may, it's called a puff. It's a paid in full. And many companies who are private will do that. Maybe you pay for 5 years upfront, but the discount is huge and you're done. And it's like almost like a lifetime license because they're gonna want their money back. The VCs are gonna want their money back. They're gonna wanna see this long-term income. At least asking and see if you can negotiate something like that because many companies do that.
Okay. And just to follow up on your question, Mr. Chair, no disrespect to the financial folks in the room, Robert, but they're all focused right here at the budget for the internal document, for the accounting, for the internal departmental issues. This is externally focused, in my opinion. It's for the whole purpose is for the public and for that transparency, and it goes far beyond the Excel spreadsheet and PowerPoint presentation that we can provide. It's interactive, it's web-based, it's
Simplifies it.
totally.
I guess I'm a little skeptical because I've had a lot of clients that thought of taking a post, thinking they were getting something of value that didn't, it turned out not to be. But if you guys are satisfied that there is additional benefit beyond what you could do with a projection and a spreadsheet, then
Well, that's what we could do with a projection and a spreadsheet.
Mm-hmm.
But this is what,
this
John
is
Smith could
somebody's
do.
home,
At
you know, they
home.
can
At home.
log
Externally.
on and do it.
There's with two caveats. One would be, it's always the same old thing, right? Good data and creates really great spreadsheets, but you gotta be right when you put it in. And secondly, I would wonder if you're combining categories just to fulfill his mapping ability. So that would be the only thing that would be odd because the Excel would obviously spread them out a little bit more.
But we would want that to match.
You
our-
want it to
our
match
budget.
what you have, because
Yeah.
otherwise, all you do is create more questions.
Yeah.
Right, and I think that's what would probably be the initial downtime is just ensuring like, hey, they're building it for us.
Right.
It's not, they're not building it, oh, Palo Alto does it this way or someone else does it this way. So if it's taxes and fees and you drill down to taxes and fees, we want to show our categories that we show in our
Right.
budget. And so, you may summarize them as taxes and fees, but when you click on it, it shows, okay, this is sales tax, this is your unsecured, this is your secured, this, so we want it to mirror that way.
Because he doesn't have the ability to do data warehousing, and he doesn't have the ability to do analytics. The analytics would give you, like, you'd see Portola Valley is at, like you said, a 3.6% in one little category. And you'd be able to map it to know, are you higher, lower, the same, what's the average? It's a red flag. And that's what analytics is supposed to do for you.
Yeah.
And the data warehousing is just all information put together. And then you just pick out what you want
But that's
from the most
danger.
minute piece. And that is something that,
Yeah.
if he'll do it for the future with no charge, that's a really good tool. And that is something you're gonna want internally.
That's something we want internally, but it's something that, that's gonna be challenging, because if that matches our budget, it's not gonna match Portola Valley's budget categories
ways to
in
do it.
detail. There's ways to do that, but from the public's perspective,
Yeah.
it's gonna be a little bit more challenging.
But that's
for
that's
us,
an internal
so,
thing.
Right.
That's when you want that internal knowledge, that's when it's helpful for your audits, to kind of look backwards and forwards. So if he's able, and my reason I ask that is because maybe we can say to ourselves, okay, well, we're paying an audit fees, if we're providing some tool which an auditor might request, does it offset the cost somehow? Is it a zero expense to the town? And we can justify that somehow. That's kind of why I was asking these
Well, they caused quite a stir up in Sacramento when they first came forward and brought some data to a committee that was in more detail than they're used to seeing. It caused quite a stir, but I'm not sure that wasn't a credit to them rather than a detriment, so.
And you want to make sure you own the data.
Mhm.
So if they go out of business, you can take everything back without cost. Sometimes they'll charge you
If
for a
it's just for
file
1
fee.
year,
to
I
get
go
your
along
money,
with it.
get your
Because
stuff.
I'm really, I don't know why I'm so skeptical here, because.
So we're not technically giving them anything.
No, but for them to give it, return it back to you when they change the mapping of it, whatever company you would change to, you
Yeah.
want that back the same
And we'd
way.
have the hard data, but not the soft.
Yeah, their software is their software. I mean, you would just take it on and,
All right.
Well, you have use of it for the year. I mean, if somebody wanted to come in and use your website, it will automatically function.
It's open to the public, it's open gov, I mean, it's not our software, it's their software that's hosted in the cloud. Anybody, once we upload all this data, to them, they format it, and it is out there for, if you lived in Moscow, you could access it. If you lived in Hawaii, you could access it.
You're exposed.
You know, you're out there,
All right.
and, okay?
All right,
And
let's,
it becomes old data the minute you stop updating it, right?
George, do you want a recommendation for 1 year?
No, actually, we don't need, but we just presented it for information to the finance committee.
Why not, are you gonna go ahead and present it to the council? Or you have authority to do it on your own?
Yes, yes,
So generally, you're supported?
yes,
For 1 year? For 1 year?
at least.
Okay.
So, on number 6,
Okay. 6. Well, this is our investment policy, and there was some recommended changes by Coldwater or
Cutwater.
Cutwater.
Yeah, if I may, all this is just a review recommendation to investment policy for the fiscal year 13-14. We've brought this back last year, council, the committee made recommendations to the council. And the following recommended changes that went to council was maintaining the minimum investment requirement on investing in AAA for medium-term notes, and the city to have discretion to make a decision to sell or hold securities that may have been downgraded below the minimum rating level. So those were the only changes that went back to the council last November and were adopted. We're just bringing this back as an annual reoccurrence for the policy for the committee to review annually. And Cutwater did look at the investment policy, and I asked for some recommendations. And you can see on page 2 of the staff report, one recommendation is to change, add that no more than 25% of the town's total portfolio shall be invested in any one instrumentality issuer. And number 3 was changing the AAA from medium-term notes back to AA ratings. And the reasons for this requested change is that there's only half a dozen AAA names out there. And reducing it to AA kind of gives us more pool to invest in. A AA, for example, Berkshire Hathaway, Microsoft, they're listed as AA, but they're sound investments. So we're just recommending that we go from AAA to AA. And then the other addition is to add that we did have in there to purchase CDs into our investment policy.
On the
how
Berkshire,
much is
sorry, the Berkshire stock, this is not B-rated stock, this is not their B-level stock. This is their,
I don't think they're recommending Berkshire.
No, this is
He's
just,
not recommending.
this is an example of companies that are out there
okay.
that
Yeah,
are
no,
A
that's
rated.
not, he's not recommending.
No.
It's only
I have a
100,000
question.
a share.
In number 3,
Mhm.
the medium-term notes are 30%, shall not exceed 30%. So I guess there's a different.
What page are you on?
Page 3.
Of the investment
Of
policy.
the investment policy. So it's a 30%, and then item number 2 talks about no more than 25%. So I guess it's a difference between federal instrumentality and medium-term notes.
Yes.
Explain that?
Well, federal instrumentality mostly, those are government-backed instruments like Fannie Mae,
Freddie Mac.
Freddie Mac, different, that are government-backed type securities,
Mhm.
which are pretty much, they're good and they're safe, as they're backed by the government. And here, reading in here that it says no more than 25%, I'm recommending that maybe we put that, not 25, to also 30%, similar to what we have as medium-term notes. The reason being is it allows for some continued diversification. If we put that at 25%, one of our safest investments of, putting in federal instrumentalities, it's dwindled.
It's what?
It's dwindled, it's reduced in what we can
At
invest
25%.
if we have that 25%.
Yeah, but you're talking about in one security, not as a group.
No, that's, no more, shall be invested in one in one, issuer. It should be, 25%, but, how, our medium-term notes, it says it should not exceed 30%.
As a group.
Right.
So I think the one's a group and the other is individual, and I think 25% is way too high. I mean, with our experience with Lehman Brothers, when they had 15%, how much did we lose?
I'm not sure how much
You
we've lost on
didn't,
that.
you didn't calculate that?
No, we don't have that, but we've,
400,
we've
it was
gained-
400,000.
but what we gained
And I
back was
think we got
about,
some
we
back.
it's at about 330,000.
We got that, it was about, total about 450,000 or so, and we got back 300. And so our net loss was actually less.
Yeah.
It was.
Well, I just don't see any reason why you need to have 25% in any individual security. I mean, this is only one part of the portfolio, and I just think that about 25% in one security is just too much exposure.
So
you know
have
what?
there
I'm
not
sorry.
been any limits at all?
No, there hadn't been any limits, and so,
100% of the portfolio.
Yeah,
Right.
there had not been any limits at all prior,
yeah.
and so. Of creating
We're
a 25% limit. But I'm still confused with the 30% down below in the medium-term notes issued by corporations organized and operating within the United States, depository institution,
Yeah.
They're nationally rated.
So that's the only one that has a 30% cap
Right.
by category,
Yeah, by
not by
category.
issuer.
Right,
And the 25%
Is
is
by
capped by
category.
issuer.
yeah,
This is by category.
yes.
I thought there was boundaries on the limits on what was allowed to be, like percentage limits, no?
Well, as long as it complies with the government code, you can invest wherever you like in terms of percentage.
Well, then I'm fine then as how it is, 25%, because I was
Yeah,
mixing them
you were mixing,
as a
I thought you were
category,
mixing them,
as a
yeah.
total category. So
Right.
25% per issuer.
Well, what is it now? What is how much do we have in there now?
For federal instrumentality, the total right now we have about 30%
As a category?
as a total category,
And how much of any individual security?
about 6%.
Yeah, I would suggest 10% or 15 at the most on individual securities. You could have 25 or 30% as a category, but for individual securities, because Sally Mae almost went bankrupt. I know that. And I just think that
Is Sally Mae, we're not investing in Sally Mae, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mae.
I know, but they're
Those are
similar
government-backed
securities. They're
securities.
similar securities. I mean, we could have.
But I think that
But they're government sponsored. and
we've
that's
got to
what-
be federally sponsored. See, the caveat with number 2, federal instrumentality, it's government-sponsored enterprises, okay? So that would only be in that category. We wouldn't go out and buy something that's not government-backed.
Well, this is not government backed, it's not government guaranteed, it's government sponsored. And sponsored is different than guaranteed.
Okay?
And I just think that we don't need to take that risk. Because I know from personal experience that there is a risk there. And I'm just saying, I don't see why we can have 25 or 30% as a category, but I don't think we should have more than 15% in any one of those. Now,
Do we have a historical reference for Cutwater's performance over the last few years, meaning their recommendations versus what actually happened?
I can pull that, but from my experience with them, they're our asset manager, meaning that they go and they get brokers for us. And there's a broker list that we approve that they go by. And they gotta get 3 matching bids on investments. And they let us know, based off of our liquidity, our risk assessment, what we want to invest in, and they choose the investments in. So they've made an interest in investing through their program. We've made interest based off of that. We haven't lost on it. Cutwater's been a good portfolio manager for us. I can bring back a report from them showing what they've done.
It's not, like I said, it's not just what they've done, but what did they recommend,
Mhm.
what did we follow,
Mhm.
and what was the result on a historical basis. It's pretty hard to judge someone's ability unless you go back and
So,
what you suggest versus what you actually do.
But,
so they have been really very conservative,
Mhm.
in my experience. And they were brought on, probably in 2009, I think. Was it about 2009, do you think? They've been really conservative. I don't know, it could be time for taking a look at, how they've done over the last 5 years, and maybe interviewing new investment advisors, kind of taking a look at that. But they go on what our investment policy is. Now, if you look at item number 5, 6, 8 on page 4, see the LAIF funds, Chair Conlon, is that we put a limit of 50% of the town's portfolio to be invested in LAIF. And I think that's where we got hurt. Lehman Brothers was in LAIF, or was it in?
Lehman Brothers was in
San Mateo County.
Which we're no longer
And
part
we're
of.
no, okay, see, that's, LAIF is a little bit, is broader and bigger, right? Okay, so I knew that we had made
It
a
was in San
change.
Mateo County pool.
So we don't even have San Mateo County in here anymore.
No, so see, we're kind of we protected ourselves against that, and that was where the Lehman Brothers was in. So this, State of California's local agency investment fund, LAIF, and we said, we can't, and we're not, and we had San Mateo County and
LAIF,
LAIF.
right.
Those were the only 2 investments, I think, that we had before we changed it all in 2008, 2009.
Number 6, prime commercial paper, I think, Mr. Chair, includes the language that you're looking for. No more than 5% of the town's total portfolio shall be invested in.
Where, what page you on? I don't find.
Page
Page 4,
Number 6.
3-6.
Yeah, it was item 6, but then, item 3.
Top of the
we made
page
it-
is
Oh, I see, that, at the top, it's 3 is crossed out as 6.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, now what about it?
The last paragraph of that section, no more than 5% of the town's total portfolio shall be invested in the commercial paper of any one issuer, and the aggregate investment in commercial paper shall not exceed 25% of the town's total portfolio. That's the kind of language you're looking for.
Yeah, and that's what I'm kind of looking for that other category. And the question is, what, and the maximum for any one portfolio, I would suggest 15%.
So you're saying 15% for federal instrumentality, no more.
Yes,
for
now, we need to know what they're doing now. If we've got more than that now, then we need to.
We don't, we've got, which is 30%,
6%.
but 6% in any one.
Anyone, yeah, it's about 6% in any one.
No, I would ask Cutwater whether
Total
15%,
portfolio.
whether 15% will inhibit them in making investments. But if it doesn't, I would recommend 15%.
It seems like we've got 3 investment vehicles, and that has to add up to 100%.
Yeah,
we
Okay,
do.
we have 3 investment vehicles. We have LAIF at 50%, we have federal instrumentalities, But yes,
which was, there was no cap.
there was no cap, and now you're saying no more than 25%. We've got medium-term notes, no more than 30%.
No, the 25% is not a cap on the total, it's only a cap on the individual. And I'm saying if you take that wording out to 6, like George mentioned, you can put that in there and restrict the total.
Instrumentality issuer. I'm not sure, is that,
If you change that 25 to 15%, there's still no cap.
Right.
You could have 3 15% issuers out there without.
Or 5, 15%.
Five.
But the treasury bills, I think, is a big category where everybody's comfortable, no matter, I mean,
with the final maturity not exceeding 5 years from the date of, no long term. So that's the other thing that we shortened it, that we're not investing, 10, 20 years down the road, right?
Well, 5 years is our max,
Mhm.
and when we invest in anything, because we don't want, one, they understand that liquidity is important to us if there's something that is
Mhm.
financial crisis. What helps us is LAIF is very liquid. We can call them today and say, hey, send us $1 million, and LAIF sends it to us the next day. So that's very liquid.
Mhm.
But with our investments, we try not to go to more than 5 years. And usually what happens when we purchase in some investments, whether it's in instrumentalities, they get called before the maturity date. So that helps us too.
So I have a question about these CDs, non-negotiable CDs and saving deposit, with a maturity not exceeding 5 years. And what kind of interest would you get on those?
1%.
I mean, like, is that in anticipation of, I mean, is Cutwater seeing interest rates going up? And so that we may want to start investing in those CDs? Because this is a new,
They have been going up, but very minimally.
are they adding both these categories now?
Yes.
number 4 and number 5.
And did they say why? I mean, it seems to me they got.
Negotiable CDs we can sell, non-negotiable means you can't sell.
I know.
You gotta wait. But the one thing that I think, a caveat that we could probably add into both of the CD portions is saying that we will not exceed the FDIC insured, which is 250,000. So for CDs, if we invest in CDs, and we can add that in when we go, is that we won't go past the 250,000 FDIC insured.
Okay.
So meaning if we went to go buy a CD, the most we're gonna buy is 250,
Mhm.
because.
And it's gonna
something
be an
we have to do-
FDIC insured
Yeah, but
institution.
the
Yes.
FDIC insurance, it depends on how many
Thanks, yeah.
humans are actually usually on the base. So in this case, as a town, do we qualify as more than one human, which I think is allowed, what, $400,000?
No, it's per CD.
It's per se.
We can.
I
And at
suggest
some
you
point,
do.
they may wrap that back to 100. I mean, remember?
Right,
They
right, it
they
was-
artificially increased it,
Right.
okay?
So do we know how do we make money? Where did the money come from? Did we make any money on the investment that we gave them?
Mhm.
We did.
We
What
made-
category made money?
Our instrumentality made money, LAIF makes money.
What did
It goes in
percentage?
interest income or other
Wise.
income?
We made interest income last year, about almost 70,000 in interest income.
Which is how much on a percentage basis?
Um,
9 million.
On 22 million, it would not be very much.
yeah. Because interest rates are very low right now.
Yeah, right.
LAIF, historically,
Like,
LAIF used to be up to like 5%. Before, and then 2008 happened, it all went down. So everybody was leaving their money in LAIF because it's like, well, how? 5% in LAIF, it's very liquid, I can get my money back as soon as I want it. Now it's like 0.58.
Well, I think the return on our money is not the main goal, it's not to lose money.
Right. And that's what,
We're very risk adverse
Right.
here. We don't want to lose money, but we just don't want to put it in a money market at
Right.
0.1% or something,
Yeah,
you know?
almost take a risk.
Okay.
Well, I think we should make
So
some
that's it.
very conservative judgments here and have them come back to us in our next meeting and tell us why on each one of these, because I'm not comfortable with, at all with repurchasing And I've never heard anybody explain those to me in a rational basis as to
Well,
why.
that's not a change, that's a current.
I know it's not a change, but I'm just saying I'm still uncomfortable because there was a big scandal on repurchase agreements and nobody could explain it.
No, and just to be safe and reiterate, Cutwater understands our investment policy, we send it to them, they understand our stance. When we wanna invest in something, we are very conservative in our investment. You know, I get a ticket, I look at it, verify, I communicate with George, it's something that I'd rather not have to deal with having to invest all our money in back and forth. So we assure them that we want to do is we want it to be safe, we want it to be liquid when we need it. So we take a conservative approach. Yes, we would like to have interest on our investment, but what we want to do is we want to make sure we're not investing our money to where I have to wait 5 years for this bond to be called to get money.
So on how much do you put in that you don't touch? And how much do you have to take in and out?
Well, we have about 10 million in lay, and that's what is our liquid, that's our liquidity. So if we have to take money for operations or anything, if we have to transfer money, we transfer out of lay. Everything else is our investment.
Because your property taxes, you only get those twice a year.
Twice a year, yes, sir.
So you have to have operating
Right. And
ability.
LAIF helps us with that. LAIF is a good tool, instrument for us to have. All the other ones are investments, and we're conservative in that, and ensuring that, hey, we're gonna invest, knowing that, hey, might not get the most interest, we're gonna get some interest, but at the same time, we're not gonna lose that money.
Hey, well, in the interest of time, I suggest that we, on paragraph 2, that we go to 25% on the category and 15% on any individual instrument. And they can talk us out of this at the next meeting, they be Cutwater. And then as far as number 4, I'm still uncomfortable, but I would go along with their A-1, because that's not a very sound, not a very reassuring rating.
You mean A plus? Oh, A minus?
A-1
A
plus.
minus 1 plus 1, I asked them, that's the short-term highest rating that you have. So they're saying that we're gonna do, if we're gonna do this, we're gonna take the short term and we're gonna go
All right,
for
well,
the
let's
high.
leave it alone, but
Highest.
I want them to explain to me why it's not single A plus, or double A, or triple A, because you're talking about A minus as a starting point. I mean, California bonds are A minus, and they're the worst in the United States.
Well, the A minus 1 plus is a short-term investment. The double A is a longer-term investment.
These are 6-month CDs.
These CDs
All right,
are
well,
short-term.
I'm suggesting we go along with that, but I'm just saying it still doesn't give you a lot of comfort, but I don't want to call them up
If you could
and
truly
wait until
ask
we get their
them
input. And these non-negotiable CDs,
for
is
history.
anybody comfortable with those? I don't even know what they are. I've never heard of them.
It's a CD that we buy from, this, let's say Wells Fargo has a CD, we buy it. We can't sell it. It's something that we wait until the term of the CD.
I would
That's
get it out of there. If we need it, we want to sell it. I mean, we don't need to sacrifice liquidity for investment yield. That's what you're saying, that you get a little higher return on these. I mean, I may be, they need to come and convince us that I'm wrong or that the risk isn't that great. I mean, but for them to put that in there without justifying it, I'm not comfortable. So I would delete the non-negotiable and let them come back next meeting and convince us that it's something that we should do and why. I mean, it's one thing to make the changes, but they gotta convince us why. I mean, it's our money, not theirs. Now, if anybody disagrees, we can do something else. but
No,
that's my
because
opinion.
what you said, I agree with you, because we were talking about, we want to be conservative, we want to be looking at liquidity, that ties up, the non-negotiable is non-negotiable. That takes the liquidity portion right off the
That's what I
table.
asked you, how much do you normally not?
So the lake gives us a liquidity that we need to operate.
And I think the biggest thing with this investment policy too is making sure that we have the avenues to be diversified. That we're not stuck with just 3 options to invest in. You know, as interest rates go up, if we're stuck with 3 options, then, you know, do we want to take advantage? Is it going to hinder us from taking advantage of having
So
interest rates?
what about putting a percentage limit on this?
That's fine.
I mean, there's no percentage limit on either 4 or 5, is there?
No.
I mean, I would think that that would protect us if you said, okay, if Wells Fargo had a 5-year CD that paid 3.5%, would we want to walk up some of our money, you know, $500,000 or something, that, for 5 years?
We normally have like a penalty that you can pay, a small penalty.
Yeah, there's a penalty.
In order to get out, if you
Yeah,
see
but-
a better, or
Yeah.
the money is locked for 6 months, and then you have the right.
Yeah, I mean, right, but I think that's what it is, that I think we protect ourselves by putting a cap of how much money you're going to feel comfortable about locking up for any period of time, and in return for a higher yield, okay? I mean, you certainly wouldn't put 50% of our money in the non-negotiable, you know, CD, because you need that money. But, so, I mean, I think it gives you some other options, and I don't see a problem in putting either a dollar amount or a percentage
Or a
amount.
percentage, or a,
Yeah. I mean, and so what, 1%?
I think the reality is to create some diversity.
Yeah. and-
I gotta tell you, I cannot support that at all.
22
Okay.
years.
Taking taxpayer money, you're
Locking
saying,
it
I'm
up.
gonna put it in a lockbox over here,
Mhm.
and we have a disaster in town and we can't touch it. I cannot support that non-negotiable capital.
you can probably
Well,
touch it, but they'll penalize you.
Penalize them.
Okay,
Like
so
any
why would we,
CD.
why would
Yeah,
we do that?
why would we do that? Well, I guess in order
If
to
the
get a
penalty-
higher.
I'm not saying, yeah, but the short,
Yeah.
yeah, that's an
If the
easy sell.
penalty-
Again, the money's the taxpayers' money,
Mhm.
and we should be good custodians of it, and
Sure.
possibly get a higher rate, but it should be available to the taxpayers when the taxpayers need it.
If the increase in interest rate is justifiable, and the penalty not so much.
Well, that
You
balance,
can
that
justify
balances
it
out, but again,
somehow, But you have to have a crystal ball to know
yeah, exactly.
where we're
Why
gonna
don't we,
be.
we're just putting it off for 2 months till they convince us, so I just think
Well,
we,
I don't think they're gonna come.
Can I make another
well, they
suggestion?
can do it by phone, they don't have to come.
Can I make another suggestion? Everything that's recommended in this investment policy is consistent with the government code. You're not gonna go beyond what's recommended here, but if you wanna take out non-negotiable certificates of
That's fine.
deposit,
You
or
can take it
put
out.
limits on any particular category, Cutwater's gonna say, okay, fine.
Okay, well, they should say why, I mean, they're the ones that put them in.
Well, they're just suggestions.
Yeah,
I know, but
they
they
just,
should have reasons.
yeah, but I think,
I think the
Greg,
reasons
I
are,
think, yeah.
I think the reasons are merely to give us more
More
options.
options.
It's
Yeah.
not,
Yeah.
it's,
It's not
right now we
saying
have 3.
Put your money here,
Yeah.
but saying here's your option.
And you may not use this option, may not be a used option at all. They may still use 1, 2, and 3, and this is as a fallback if we had to do something.
And are we able to, like I said, are we able to ask them for some history on what was requested, what was recommended, what was actually done, and what those percentages, and which one was the, you know, which one actually made us our whopping
Yeah,
$70,000?
Hold that from them. Yeah, we've got a,
Made a
$22
difference in our
million
lives.
portfolio, 10 million of it sitting in lay for the liquidity, so you're dealing with $12 million. And if you wanted to put a cap on the federal instrumentality that the chair is recommending,
Mhm.
add that in there. If you want to put the max FDIC for number 4, negotiable CDs, even say not exceeding 3 years, you can do that. Instead of 5, you could take out non-negotiable CDs. You could even take out repurchase agreements if you wanted to.
Yeah.
So you, and you
I
review
watch.
everything before they finally make the investment, right? You go
Yes.
through every
Yeah,
piece
Robert
that-
sees it, I see it.
Okay. So
Do
you're
we
not
have-
just,
do we have a
it's also-
motion?
They don't just do whatever they want, they come see us.
Well, I saw
We give
something
them
in
the
power
okay.
of
right,
attorney
right.
here that.
Yeah, I have to sign everything, and believe me, that's what's scary.
Yeah, me too.
Right.
Well, then you, would you make a motion, then Jim, you make a motion to support what George just said.
I'll make that motion, yeah. If we take non-negotiable out, I'll support it.
I
The other
think,
stuff was reasonable.
yeah, the suggestion was, no more than 25% of the town's portfolio shall be invested in federal instrumentalities, no more than 15% in any one instrumentality issuer. For negotiable CDs, number 4, up to the maximum FDIC insured amount. If you want to put a change in the years, or it's 5 years, fine. Removing non-negotiable certificates of deposit entirely.
Yep.
Removing repurchase agreements entirely. And that's that.
Yeah.
But all the black type is what we currently
Already have.
operating under.
Yep.
So,
Yeah,
until we ratify a new,
Right.
we're operating under.
Why didn't we propose it?
And then are we putting this out in the future to an RFP to other brokers for comment or?
Agree, Cutwater, I haven't got the agreement, but Cutwater is just, they're our,
At our discretion.
they're our asset portfolio, manager.
We'll look at their agreement and find out what their terms.
Yeah, I think that it is.
Once we'll evaluate that at the same time.
You should change doctors, auditors, and financial advice every 3 years. At least.
You're changing to a
us.
doctor's.
Yes, so you don't have a really bad year.
Can I second this
Stagger.
motion? Diane, you want a second? Second motion,
Sorry,
you want a second?
I can second the motion.
All in favor?
Who's motion?
Jim moved,
Yeah.
Diane second,
Although,
George has a veto.
I just want to make a point that it was just to review and discuss. There was no action.
The council will make a decision.
There wasn't an action item on the agenda.
Yeah, it's actually.
Are you the attorney tonight?
She is, she's on it. Careful.
She has a final
Oh.
say.
She is on it.
She's the boss
Yeah,
lady.
whatever you wanna do.
But it's coming to council for ultimate approval.
Okay, so the agenda was an error, but the staff report was an action
Right.
item. And I'm just going with
Go with these.
So where are we?
that. You're good, you're
We're
good.
You did good.
Number 7, move us along.
All right, number 7.
We've done that.
You tried.
Well,
We
this is
haven't
kind of
violated the Brown Act by not having it on the agenda as an action item?
Yeah, I'm sorry on that.
you know, everything's null and void, this meeting is,
Yeah,
never happened.
never happened.
All right, discuss number 7. Let's move this along. Robert, you want to mention your discussion with Joe Nation and what's happening in CalPERS, and then we can decide.
Yeah.
Okay. Robert's medicated today. He's got a back issue.
I've been having back spasms since Saturday, so.